Hey guys, it's your boy Pat. Welcome to the next episode of the Hollow Down Cigar Lounge. Got our homeboy Chad with us again today for another, hopefully, entertaining show for you guys. And we're smoking a Corona Grande, I think is how they actually word this. So we're going to start smoking. It's more or less like a skinny Toro, but what we are smoking is Apostate's Feathered Serpent. Several reasons we're going to talk about this show or this cigar today. And unless we are completely mistaken, this makes the first true candela that we have pulled onto the show. Now, Chad has actually smoked one of these on an episode, but it was not a review show. And that's actually the show that made us decide we should probably actually review it.
That's the one and only time I had it, too.
So I have not had it. For reference, that was the show, the Shop Talk show we did with James Garcia. And between you talking about it and him putting on his site, we started talking about Apostate. So I went and ordered several of them. So this will be a blind smoke for me. Do notice that it has a closed foot on the end of it, which means torching will be limited.
I'm not a fan of closed foot cigars. Are you?
Not really.
They always end up. I torch them, and part of the leaf ends up in my lap, burning, and it's just never a good scene.
I'm not a fan because you can't really get a true torch.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, I mean, you almost have to burn the leaf off, and it falls off in your lap when you're trying to do it. And I don't know. Maybe there's a way to do it that I'm just not educated on.
Well, I thought about doing a match light because there's no wind where we're out in the shop right now. But I was like, man, I'm going to burn 3 matches just getting through the foot.
Like, no matter what you do, though, you're going to wear some of the ash, the hot ash. It's just inevitable.
That is I understand this is a candela, but that is a very grassy first hit. But part of a closed foot, you just pretty much took your first 2 hits of nothing but wrapper. So
yes, you basically got double wrapper there, triple wrapper.
Well, while we're going on this, we'll go over to apostatecigars.com. Why not bring this directly from their site? There are going to be some things we will talk about that we think is pretty cool, just about the brand in general. So this is the Apostate number 4, named the Feathered Serpent. It is a 6.5 by 46 Corona Gorda. I thought it was worded as Grande, but they do say Corona Gorda. The wrapper is a Dominican Corojo Candela, as you can see by that very toned green. The binder is a Mexican San Andres with Dominican fillers. So everything from this line that we will talk about has a naming point that is very specific. And if I read this correctly, the owners have their background in the Church of Latter-day Saints. So they have a lot of historical marks, a lot of representative symbolism in a lot of their names. And the Feathered Serpent, it was, and I'm not going to be able to pronounce some of this. If I'm being honest, I'll do my best. But this was named after the Mesoamerican god of antiquity. So the cigar purposely features a candela wrapper that was once common historically in the U.S. market. So a little throwback as far as you can make that connection to something somewhat historical in a tobacco market. So Okay, I'm not going to say everything about the brand right off the top of the show because there's some pretty good things to say. And I didn't know, Chad, if you'd actually gone and dug into the brand at all before we jumped on here, or if you'd had a chance to do that yet, or what.
I learned what was it? Is it Mormon or Latter Day Saint?
That's the same. Latter Day Saints is
Is it the
the
same
Church of Latter Day
religion?
Saints is the name of the church for the
Okay,
Mormon. Yeah,
tells you how little I know about that. But I read that the actual name of the brand, Apostate, what that means. Did you look? Did you see that? That was pretty
I
interesting.
did, but I
It's
forget
like
because I
the
focused
Greek
on this.
word is apostasia, which means to exit or defect. I think was some of the terms
Okay,
that they used. So this is basically they're telling the
there it
world
is.
that they're departing from, because apparently they had to depart from that religion in order to do this, because smoking is a huge no-no.
Yeah, so I see it says apostate is from the Greek word apostasia, maybe?
Hmm.
Meaning defection, departure, revolt, or rebellion. Um, brand started in 2020, and I do know quite a bit of not everything. It's not the religion group that I grew up in, but I had a lot of friends in it growing up. So I do know a decent amount. But there are a lot of things that they are not okay with, do not agree with. So that's why you've seen people sometimes where they say they leave the church, um, is because they may not agree with the way that they do things. And from what it appears, is that's maybe what's happened here, so they could start their own thing that was not maybe allowed, if that's the right word.
Was it brothers? Are they? Is it two brothers?
I think they're brothers. I think that's what I saw. I'm. It was either brothers, cousins, best friends, but man, I want to say that it was brothers. It's not on their website. I feel like I saw it on an, and I should have kept it open. I feel like it was maybe on a Half Wheel site or some other um, group somewhere that was talking about them. Let's see
So
if I
what
have
was
a
your first
real.
impression here? You got a few hits in. Yeah, I just. Let's start with the smell. What did you think of the smell? Because it's a definite. I think you can tell right as soon as you're smoking it. Like the smell is just different than a normal cigar.
It is. It's man. I almost expected that like grass hay because um I've had several candelas, and most of them I haven't liked because I didn't like the fermented grass or the pungent grass. So I almost expected to get that hit of like pungent hay, but I didn't smell that. I could smell the grass, but it smelled almost more like freshly cut lawn, that
Yeah,
sweet smell you get for a second
that's
instead of
exactly what I smelt when I lit it.
like bitter hay. The first few hits, and I purposely didn't say much past the first draw because I wanted to get past that closed foot wrap. Is it's matching the aroma? It's grassy but not bitter, so I'm hoping that carries on through the bulk of the rest of this cigar. That I'm hoping I enjoy it as much as it's leaning me to think I may actually enjoy this candela.
Yeah, that was the thing that I had mentioned to you when I was smoking it before. I There were times when I was smoking it that I forgot it was a candela. Like that's how much not candela it tastes as you get into it. It's really smooth and like has a really distinct, different flavor profile, but it's not grassy.
So trying to look a little. There's a little quick Google search to see if you were correct. It doesn't actually say they're brothers, but considering they both have the same last name, I would like to say that your discovery was correct.
No, I don't think
Um,
that was mine. I think I got that from Kevin. I think it was something I heard
oh,
him
Kevin
say
said it. Okay.
maybe. Yeah. I was just asking because I wasn't quite sure. I think it was Kevin that mentioned that maybe.
I know we talked about them, so that's very possible. So sorry, Kevin, if we're taking your credit away. We can't remember because we slept a few times. Uh,
A whole
but
bunch of times.
so what I do think is cool is as of this recording, they have 8 blends. When I purchased these a little while back after our show with James, I went to be a luxury site because they had 6 of them. So I got one of each to try, but there are 2 more that have come out late 24. This one's the number 4. And each one, they show number 1, number 2, and then they've got a name. There's the Initiatory, the Deseret, the Leahona, Feathered Serpent, sort of layman, the Zarahama. That's one I hope I'm saying correctly. Roni's Trumpet, and the Endowment. And what I find interesting is everything that is in the name is to something specific, whether it's a god, a location, a temple, a statue. The Deseret is a name because the Deseret was a desired or a projection of possibly a state that was going to be named during religious expansion that didn't happen. So it's homage to that name. But what I think is really freaking cool from a graphical standpoint is, I don't know if you caught this, is the brand. And I've got a video right here rolling the band. I'm going to throw up here so y'all can see it, and then I'll put the logo up. But the logo of Apostate, if you notice, the Apostate is all spelled out with symbols, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every symbol, notice there's 8 letters in Apostate. Those symbols represent the first 8 blends and the logos for each cigar of each blend in that consecutive order. So
I didn't notice that, but that is cool.
So
I didn't realize they were in order with numbers too. Like, so that must be you were saying that's the order they came out as far as blends too.
That's the order they came out. And if you actually look, and I think BL Luxury has them. Some of them just have the names, but like I think it's on BL's, it'll actually say, number 1, the Initiatory, number 4, Feathered Serpent. I think he's got both parts on there. But like the first one, the A in Apostate, that's number 1, the Initiatory. So of course their logo is the A. It's looking down, and then you go to, this is number 4, Feathered Serpent, which is the 4th letter. That's an S. So the S in Apostate.
That's so cool.
Serpent. So if you actually stop and look at it, every letter in the logo matches the cigar and the name. And number 5, the Sword of Labian. Well, the 5th letter in Apostate's a T. It's a sword. I think it's really smart. To not only think about what blends you want to come up with, but what order you want them to come up with, how that matches. So that's just a graphical marketing genius point, for my opinion.
This is much creamier than I expect any candela to ever be. Like, that's the one thing I noticed about it too. It has a little creamy note to it, which is, I found strange for this type of cigar or style of cigar.
And I've got some bourbon over here because, being prepared in case I was getting some bitter tones, I could level it out. But I also didn't want to hit it too early because I wanted to get the true notes of this candela. And you haven't seen me hit that bourbon yet, 12 minutes in or whatever we are, because it's not bitter, it's not harsh. Like it's tingling the top of your tongue like you think it might do something, and then it just doesn't. It's actually pretty pleasant.
Have you retroed it yet?
I have not, I don't think. I gotta do that again because I'm not. That was interesting. Okay, it's spicy, but again, you get that build up and then it just like disappears.
When I retro that, it reminds me of. Do you ever
Interesting.
eat? You ever eat
I lost my ash on the microphone.
wasabi?
Yeah, I don't actually like wasabi, even though I like spice and flavors. But I see where you're going.
It almost has that same taste, like the wasabi leaves in the back of your nose, like when you eat it. Like
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
breathe and you go, oh, and it's hot, and almost, but it's not hot like that, but it almost has that same flavor it leaves back there. Mine
That's a
is
good.
I think if I had to say anything about my cigar, I had it in a Tupperware, and it's probably I probably should have pulled it out a day early. Usually for show cigars, I pull them out and I forgot, so
Right.
I think mine's probably a couple points too humid. So I'm struggling with my burn just a little bit, but it's not terrible, but I think I should have left it out for at least half a day or a day, but I
See,
forgot.
I think that might be. We've talked about us being in different locales, and I've talked about this with Justin. We're pretty close to this. Might as well have the same weather. He talked about Dryboxing. I know he likes his a little bit lower than I do, but one of the main reasons I don't Drybox hardly ever is I keep my cigars at the 65 to 69 range is my target. I try to keep them as close to 68 as I can in storage. Well, dry boxing for me doesn't really do too much because I don't want it to get too dry because then you also have humidity shock, right? So if you light up a
Oh, for
cigar,
sure. Yeah.
well, as we've talked about, our natural humidity here tends to run in the 70s for the most of the year. So I don't want to dry box it too much and get some too much humidity shock, and because I've actually had some cigars that didn't burn well because I dry boxed it too far. So if I do, it's not for long. But like this one, I've got my show sticks. They start off in the original humidor, but then once we put them on the list, they go in the small Tupperware, and that's where they stay until we smoke them. This one came out of the Tupperware 15 minutes before we jumped on here, and it's burning almost dead. I lost my ash a minute ago, but it's burning almost dead even. So
Yeah. The
I
last one
hardly
I had burnt perfect. This one's just burning a little slow. I mean, maybe I got a weird stem or something in it too. But like in my Tupperware, though, all my Tupperware stuff, my show smokes, they all sit at 70 plus, and I can't get that below that. It's impossible. So just
what.
my climate and everything, and I have no like I take the bags right out of them and they run 70.
Now, do you what do you run in your Tupperware? Is it Bovedas or what?
Yeah, well, if I have anything, it's a Bovida. But
Okay,
like for instance, our Tupperware, I don't have a bag in there at all. I think I might have a really small like a 8 gram pack in there or something, and it holds at 71. And I don't. I mean, it's so I can't smoke anything at 71. That's nonsense.
yeah,
To
you.
me, I have
I,
to smoke at
my
60.
small my small Tupperware that's like a shoebox size for these because we've got so many cigars in there. I've got like four of the 60-gram packs in there in the corners, and it takes that much to keep it regulated because we have so many cigars in there. So all that
How
free
big is
humidity
it?
from all
It's got
the
to be a good size one.
no, it's like shoebox size.
Okay, yeah, the ones I'm using are much smaller. They're like I think they call them 9 cup. So this thing packed holds 30 robustos, just 30.
Okay,
That's it.
okay,
So like 3 rows, 10 across. It's yay big. You know,
okay. I got you. Yeah, if you imagine like regular.
probably 6.5 by 10 by 3 inches tall.
Okay, yeah. So
So they
mine is
don't.
bigger than yours for that.
Yeah. Um, but like I said, I don't know if it's just the difference in our locations or whatever, but I my house sits at 68 to 70 degrees all the time, depending on if it's, winter, summer, whatever with the fluctuation. And those things stay 68 to 71 all the time.
Of
And
course,
sometimes with no bovidus.
of course, I have a slightly bigger tub door because I've also got sticks for stuff that all of y'all have. So, of course, you have almost all of them anyway. But we're talking about this, and let me find this because this is a good. Have you ever heard of the 135 rule?
The what?
135 rule.
No.
So we talk about it, but
I should weigh 135 pounds. You're right. Thanks for bringing that up, Pat.
You're welcome. No, it refers to one of the guideline rules for storing cigars, and it says that the 135 rule is a guideline for storing cigars when you add the temperature in Fahrenheit and your humidity together. That should target 135. So if your temperature is 65 and your humidity is 70, there's 135. So you got
so the combination should add the 135.
You've got the 70-70 rule that everybody that you hear. Well, depending on your demographic region,
yep.
If you start getting too far above 70 degrees, you may be more prone to beetle awakening than other locations, especially if you're near higher humidity. So if you're in a place that has too much pure wet humidity, you may have to drop your temperature down to bring that storage capability down. So it's kind of a good mark to think about.
That's a really good thing because it brings up a good point. Because in my basement, my basement's cold, right? And I keep my cooler down there with all my fun stuff in it, right? I call it my toy box. And I can't get the temperature down there. Even in the summer, I can't get it over 65. But in the winter, it runs around 60. But the humidity is running 72.
Yeah.
So that's 132, right?
Right.
So that's probably within range. But, 60, 62 degrees down there in the winter is all it is because it's sitting on the basement floor on concrete in the closet tucked away, right? So
right.
That's a good, I never knew that. That's a good.
I'd seen several things, I started being told the 70-70 rule. Of course, I think 70-70 is a really good starter rule before you start getting too picky and specific with it.
Yeah, that's old school though, I think.
But once you kind of get into the game of it, there is cigars are super resilient, a lot more than a lot of people think. That's why they can last so long as you're. I mean, we're talking potentially decades for some cigars if you keep them in the right storage conditions. But you've got some leniency for humidity fluctuations and temperature as long as you're staying in that bubble. So I like the 135 rule. I'd seen that a while
too,
back.
but I think the 70-70, to your point, like that, in my opinion, where I live, if you're running 70-70, you're running risky all the time because 2 points up in both direction is fast mold. Like
right.
You go 72-73, you're molding.
Yeah.
So I think people I try to run 65-65 or 65-70. Right? I'd rather have my RH a little lower because my temperature usually is 68-69. So it depends on what I'm in. Like my cooler door sits at about 68 with my refrigeration unit, but I think 70-70 is kind of an old school thing. And that's right on the line.
My Tupperdoors sit right at 69.5 to 70, and that's with 65 multiple 65% packs in there. But both of my electrics, one is 65, one is 67. So I try to keep them closer to the 65 mark. But all of my temperature is. My electrics, they're 65 degrees, so I can control them. But my Tupperdoors, I keep them in a location that's fairly cool. That and my cooler door, they're all 67 to 69 degrees. So I've got them in a place I can control. So,
Yeah. Like if I could keep everything without even trying at the absolute perfect RH for me, I like smoking at 62 to 63 because I just have less burn problems.
Right.
People talk about what's the optimum, storage and smoking are two different things in my opinion.
They are.
People talk about what's optimum. Sure, you want to store at 67, 66 for life, long life of your cigars and keeps all the oils. But
Hmm.
I want to smoke at 62 because I'll have no burn issues at
The
all.
only ones that I really, and I know I'm a little different, I like New World cigars. I like smoking them in the upper 60s, 67, 68.
Mm,
Cubans, I want lower. I like them 62, 63, 4. Like, I like the Cubans, and I don't know, I guess just because a lot of times the tobacco leaf is thinner, maybe. I don't know if that's why or if that's just what's in my head, but the true Cubans, I like smoking lower. New World and Nicaraguan, it's most of it's thicker leaf anyway. So, whatever reason, I like how that pulls for me at a slightly higher RH. But not everybody's like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, everybody's got their preference. I feel like even with the New World cigars that um, if I dry them out a little more, I can pull more notes out of them. That way, rather than if they're a little bit more humid for whatever reason.
And we've it's come up in conversation before, but your palate's getting flavor off the smoke that you're pulling in. And if you do dry it down a little bit, you do tend to get a little bit more smoke, so you're going to produce more flavor. So that makes sense instantly.
Yeah. Like I said, we talk about all the time. What's the best cigar for you? The one you like. What's the best way
Exactly.
to smoke your cigars? The way you like it. Everybody's different, right? Like, as long as you're doing stuff and staying inside of like your rule, your bubble, right? You don't want moldy cigars. You don't want them in the
Yep.
sun. And if you like them at 70, smoke them at 70. If you like them at
Yep.
60, smoke them at 60.
That's why you've got some guys like Derek. He never cares specifically. So as long as they're stored well, he keeps them in a Tupperware, some Bovedas, and he never checks it. He didn't have a hygrometer. He's like, well, this one smoked good. He pulls out the next one and it smokes tight. He's like, okay, I'm gonna let it air out for a couple of days. Like, he's not super nerdy, but then you've got guys that are pulling. I think you've probably done this. I haven't seen it in a while, but because you have a humidimeter, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
So there's some guys that every single cigar before
Stab
they
every
smoke it,
stick.
they're gonna stab every stick, and they're like, "Well, I
Yeah,
want this stick today, but it's 0.5 off, so I'm gonna let it sit and go to the next one." That's just their style. So everybody's got their
right.
different target and what they want. But as long as
Do
you're
you have
storing
one
it,
of those?
I don't. I've never.
They're nice to have, and they're only for the reason that like when you have a bazillion cigars like we do, like you have them everywhere, right? Like so, I have
Right.
cigars in boxes in my humidors. I have cigars loose. I have cigars in Tupperwares. You're storing them so many different methods, right? Just to start with,
Right.
that I like to see what the actual because your the environment says it's 65 and 67 doesn't mean that's what your cigar is, right? So
Right.
I like to pull them out of the box and check them or whatever, like every once in a while, just to see them where they're at and what the different methods are, how they're, how they're holding up, I guess, if you will. I'll pull out of the box of Liga Nines that's in the bottom of my humidor and just check to make sure they're getting any kind of moisture at all. The lid's closed, and
'Cause if you're Dave,
sometimes
you're
I forget
thinking
to throw a
about that.
Boveda in them.
If you're thinking about that, your environment is loosely the average humidity of everything inside that environment. So,
Right.
right. So, your cigars that are 70% laying next to the cigars at 60, they're absorbing and releasing against each other, but you're kind of getting the average of that airspace in whatever your storage container is. So it's a good point. It doesn't necessarily mean that your cigar is what the airspace is.
And I'm curious too. I did a little test one time. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I took a Micarita Red and dry boxed it to 60, cut the end off of it. So the foot was 60, cut the end off it. On the cap end, it's always 4 or 5 points more moist because it's
Right.
closed, right?
Right.
So it started out 60 on one end, 65 on the other. And as I smoked it, I kept probing it as I went back. And before I got to the band, it was at 99% humidity. But you could see it go up. Like I went in a half an inch and it went to say 70 and then 75. And it's just kind of fun too, just to
Yep.
see what's happening to the cigar as you're smoking it.
Because you're literally combusting an organic product. You know, we don't.
Mhm.
You may not think of it that way, but you're starting a fire in your hand. You know, you're creating a chemical reaction. So on top of your storage conditions, the cigar is going to morph and change over time, which is why a lot of times we also reference cigar flavors and senses of thirds. You know, even the cigars that don't have a transition difference, you may notice a burn difference or something. So there's a chance of the cigar changing as you get into it. You know, the heat's reaching different points of the humidity levels in the cigar. So it's really a big gambit of information and data that can happen with that. If you told me about that experiment, I've forgotten about it because I'm having a knee jerk reaction of how freaking cool that is to actually stop and see those data points along the way.
But like you said, that's the only reason I have one. I bought one, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago just to test some sticks. And it's one of those, it's like $40, you know? So it's like,
Right.
it's kind of a cool thing to have around. But there's one guy in particular on social media, I think that's the guy you're referring to, that literally every single cigar he smokes, he posts a picture of it
With the humidimeter in the stick.
in it. Yeah, and I can't remember his name, but
He's in a
man,
couple
whatever.
different groups that we're in because I see the same pictures scattered over. And it's like every picture, I'll have a picture of the cigar like we do, but then there'll be this with the
Right.
meter in the end. But hey, he knows what he's smoking.
Someday he'll post a picture with no humid meter, and we'll wonder if he's been abducted.
Mm-hmm. But yeah. Since we're talking about cigar changes, mine is. I'm gonna say we're almost half, not quite, but I'm pretty close enough to call it half. My flavor point hasn't changed. It's mostly still like sweet grass, a little bit of spice. I'm not getting really anything else, but it seems to be a little smoother as I go.
Hmm I noticed that too with the first one. This one's not as much because I'm really having to work at keeping it lit.
Mm-hmm.
But that first one I smoked, like I told you, as I was smoking it, I forgot I was smoking a candela several times. I was like, just tasted like a regular cigar at points.
Right, almost like a mildly spiced Connecticut at times in a way, because it doesn't
because
have.
it's not overbearing with that grass and hay.
And that's one thing that me and Saka have in common is I'm not a fan of traditional candela that has that just like pungent pepper, if you will, which some people love that. That's why people go towards the candelas, especially the candela lanceros that just have almost nothing but a candela wrapper. Some guys love that. That's a little too far for me, even though I like, Boulder cigars and pepper bombs and all that stuff. It's just weird flavor. I am enjoying the hell out of this one.
Super mild. Like,
and you said you thought I would enjoy it, and you were right because it's obviously it's a candela, but it doesn't. And I don't know if it's because it's bound with a San Andres. I don't know if. I mean, obviously
mixing
that's
the two flavors, yeah.
Mixing the two flavors. It's not just a candela with like a milder Connecticut broadleaf or Connecticut shade or something like that that's under it. So it may be that they blended it with the San Andres for that, whether it was on purpose or a fortunate accident, not sure. But either way, it doesn't have that bitterness that turns me off from a lot of candelas. So I'm actually thoroughly enjoying this one. So I'm glad that you were right on your believed opinion on what I might do because I'm thoroughly enjoying this one.
Yeah, and you bought some as well, so you've actually smoked some of the other ones already, right? Like, which ones have you tried?
I've had so I've being not as good as I wanted to be. I've smoked them in order. I've smoked.
Oh, you started with number one?
I started with number one.
That's awesome.
So we're I think I forgot to post when I smoked the number three. So I smoked them in order to make sure that this was the fourth one. So I smoked one, then two, smoked three about a week ago. But man, I'm having to remember. I think that was whenever I was having an app issue, and I don't think I posted it. So I'll probably just throw that up in my one of my next ones. But
Well, what
then
are
this,
they again? Can you start with number one
oh,
and
I'm sorry. Yeah, number one's the
see if I,
initiatory. Um, and all of their bands. So it's they, and just like this one, it's got their logo band up here. The only difference in the naming is they throw a secondary band that's got a color difference, and I don't think it has the numbers on here. It just has the name. So the first one was the initiatory. It's red second band. The second one was the Desert, which was fantastic.
Mhm.
That was fantastic. That one's a gold band. It's got I don't want it wasn't double wrap, but it's got like lines of multicolor wrapper. The third one was the Leahona. That was more of a Connecticut.
I really like that one too.
And then this will be the fourth one, the feathered serpent. So what I've currently got left is number five, which is basically a skinny Churchill. That's the Sword of Laban, which smart on size, comparing it to a sword. And then the word that I keep pronouncing incorrectly, number six, is the Zara Hemla, which is a broadleaf. They call it a Toro, but it's halfway between a Toro and a Fat Robusto. So the 7 and 8 I don't have. So, but I've smoked the first three. This will be number four.
Okay, so I think that I have not tried the first one. I'd have to go back and look at my pictures, but for sure I tried the Deseret, which was outstanding. And
I
then the
love that one.
Leahona, you said? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, the Leahona is
It's a
the
Connecticut.
Connecticut. It's the only one that's torpedo.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
that was a super good cigar. I enjoyed that a lot. And then obviously this is my second one of these. The sword, I think I have a sword. I'm gonna have to go look, but James sent me as a freebie one, and I think it was the
Okay.
sword. Um,
And what I do think is cool about this is they have their blends, but each blend has one size, one vitola, one shape. It's not multiple. So like they create the cigar and it's like this is the
it's
cigar.
best in this size, and this is what you're gonna smoke.
Yep.
You don't get a choice.
And um,
Keeps their costs down though. You think about it, like look at these big companies, and they have a blend, and they got to come out in 14 different vitolas.
mm-hmm.
Like how much stock you have to keep, right? It's
And
smart. It's a really smart business plan.
they don't have boxes, so they come in like black bundles with the sticker, big fat sticker logo. If you got a whole box, it's basically a bundle. So they're all of their money is going into the cigar production itself. So, and all these lines, they're between out of the first six that I've got in front of me. The cheapest one is the Leahona at 11.25, and the most expensive is the Sword of Laban, which is 14. So they're all $11 to $14 a piece. So that they're very tightly priced as far as which blend costs what. Very consistent.
Yeah, I'm a little upset with myself that I didn't get this out earlier because I know that it's not a cigar issue; it's a storage issue. So
Yeah, because
that I'm having.
mine is burning. I mean, I probably should actually say that this is a razor fine burn because it's. I don't know if let's see if this will. I mean, it's. If I can
Yeah,
get this. I mean, it is, and that's probably the wonkiest if I'm going to say anything that it's got, but it's burning so even. So, and you didn't mention any burn issue when you smoked it the first time, so
no,
I
mine
think you're
was
right.
just like yours, and this is actually burning pretty straight. It's just I'm struggling to keep it lit, so I know it's
Oh, I
wet.
got you.
A couple points too. I bet you it's in the 70 or so, which is not where I like to smoke anything.
Right.
And I don't know enough about candela, but I would assume you want to smoke it a little bit drier than you would most things because it represents, or similar to grass. Just
And from what I've learned is they tend to, the ones I've had seem to burn more like a Connecticut shade, if you will. Seems to be a little thinner wrapper or a little bit more brittle or maybe both.
mm-hmm.
And, so I don't know. I could be wrong on that, but that's kind of where it leads me to.
No, I think the candela wrappers are a little more tender. I would say that's probably true for sure.
It's a man show. We can't say tender here.
Tender-hearted. Speaking of man shows, how was that FG?
Oh, hey, this is last year's shirt. Wore this for a reason because my dumb butt forgot to grab one of this year's shirts. So, if I can find one still floating around, I'll get one. So by the time this airs, because by my own admission, I'm a little bit behind on editing, so that's on me. But that was March 8th, and I do know, I can tell you, because I'm behind, we had a show that was recently edited and has by now already aired, where we talked about NFG coming up, and the event has happened by the time that show published. So here we are again, but the world of production, right? But it was great. The weather was not cooperative. We thought it was going to get rained out. I ended up the trip with a massive amount of hail damage on my truck that came through early that morning, but luckily the storm came through and passed. So once we got there, it was just stupid cold, but it was still a good event. Justin was there with us. Eldon was there with us. There's 4 or 5 people that are in the Hollow Down group now that were there. Gordon, one of our in-house tobacconists from Cigars International, was there. But got to meet several of the vendors. So one thing that I like different about NFG is every event has exclusives that are made just for that event, right? Well, NFG, pretty much the event cigars are only exclusives, or like McAuliffe had one. They had an unbanded one. I don't know what it is yet, but they didn't really have a true exclusive, but they had an exclusive sampler of their color line that you can't go get that way somewhere else. But got to see and talk to Terrence Riley, Aganorsa. Undervalued how much taller he is than me, and I'm already 6'2". I looked up at him. Then I realized he was still not the tallest guy in the group, because I come around the corner and talked to Madison from Ohana Nui and 262. He was even taller. Made me and Justin look like shrimps. He's a giant.
He didn't make you look like that much of a shrimp. He made Justin look like the world's shortest man.
Yeah,
it was like a circus picture. It was a circus picture of Terrence with his, and Terrence has got some guns too.
He does.
He's a big boy. He's flexing his muscles, and then there's little Justin down there about it is under his chest. Well, it's not really, but it sure looked like it in the picture. It's just comical.
Now that we're talking about this, I'm gonna throw this up there. So you got, you see the picture with Terrence, and the new, or the not the new, but the exclusive he did for NFG was the Devil Wears Khaki Shorts, and the image on the band of or on the package of cigars is literally Terrence wearing his red wings in khaki shorts, just muscled up. But that's not too far from what he is in person. He's got some guns. So
right, he's a big fella.
So saw Terrence, saw Madison, talked to Eric Bay from Black Star Line Cigars. They're out of Chicago. Forgot to take a picture with him because I got distracted talking. Finally got to meet Storm Bowen in person, who is the CEO of CFW, Cigars for Warriors.
I was going to ask you about that too.
So talked to him, as you could expect, for quite some time. Ellen gave up and left me hanging, so I was talking to him for a little while. Really good conversation. Several good guys. And then I met up with David Skelton, who is now in the group as well. He is the guy that does the Texas Cigar Roadshow. If you haven't seen that show, that's another one. They do a lot of like cigar um, drink pairings, the way they kind of roll their show. But he does a lot of tips and other things too. So another good show to watch. Um, we're probably going to link up with him at some point. But several good people, and then there's 15 other vendors that I just couldn't get a chance to go talk to, or by the time I got there, they were sold out, so they were kind of backing away. But there's
so Storm,
some
what about did you have any discussions with him about him coming on?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He only prefaced that uh, his palate is a lot like Derek's. He said, "I'm a yep or a nope guy." So as long as you're good for a yep or a nope guy, I was like, yeah. I was like, man, if we brought you on the show, I wouldn't be bringing you on the show to review a cigar. We can do that on our own. We'd bring you on to talk about.
We'd be pumping up Cigars for Warriors. Yeah,
exactly.
The whole thing would be talking about how it got started and how awesome it is, and we could just be smoking a cigar in the background, essentially.
Exactly. So
that would be a good show.
Yeah. And so yeah, we talked about we'll do that. So we'll get him on at some point. And I've talked to him on social media before. He didn't know who I was because I was just a dude in the wash. But finally, actually getting to meet him in person.
Yeah.
We've had emails and stuff like that with the program. There's a couple others that I've talked to when we were setting this up. Paul and Elena. That I think I know Elena's in our group. I think Paul I think he is too. Talked to them a lot, but actually getting to meet Storm was pretty cool, considering we support and push their endeavors so strongly. It was pretty cool.
I'm assuming he was in the military, right?
I forget his exact background, so I don't want to misspeak.
No worries. I didn't know. I would assume that he was, but did you say that they had there was a number that they keep on their site and how many cigars that they had sent overseas? And
they do, and let me see if they've updated it. Let's see, because it
was like 1 million something or some crazy number last time.
Last time we said anything, I think said that they'd updated it to 1.3. Let's see if they have. Okay, so now it's saying that they have donated 1.6 million cigars.
Wow.
So they keep a tally of it and how much they're able to donate what they get. Let's see here.
Well, heck, we're going to be looking at getting that next drive kicked off here shortly, right? When will we do that?
So the next drive will start June 1st, go till July 15th. And so our normal 6-week time span has seemed to be a good mark for collecting, storing, and sending off. So,
unless you're Jay Bates, then
yes,
then you need 6.25 weeks.
6.25 weeks.
He was like 2 days late.
Hey, but you know what? He was late last time, which means he's technically going to be posted as the first donation this time, and
he's going to be the biggest first donation we've ever had.
Because he's right around second because
biggest first donation.
Oh, biggest
the first donation of the drive. He will be the biggest first donation, right? Because normally you or I are the first one, and we've never donated. I think he's upwards of 70 with that package, isn't he?
Right around 70. I got to go recount, but I think his pack was right at 70. And Eldon
usually you and I kick it off with 30 or 40 or whatever. And
yep. Eldon dropped over 100 one time, but he combined 2 drives into one. So, but it still counted. So.
Oh yeah.
But. So we'll
to date he's the big fish. Somebody's got to catch him.
Right.
That was a big Gil Reith put a huge donation in last year too.
Yep. And that's we're always gonna put in cigars, and then of course me and you, just to be a pretty number, we added a few more at the end just because we were so close to 500. We added a few more in there to get it to 500 because we were at 480 or something.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, we're going to throw a few more in a piece and get
short or something.
Speaking
of Gil, I got to meet Gil last week. He's from Louisiana. And we hung out all weekend. I went to Secreto on Friday. I left work at about noon and I was up there by, 2 o'clock. We spent the whole evening together, and then with Keith Park as well from God of Fire.
Yeah, I'm super jealous about that one.
The following day, my daughter had state finals for gymnastics, so I went to Grand Rapids on the other side of the state, drove back to my house, and then drove the opposite side of the state. So I ended up getting a
Man,
hotel room up there and staying the night because I wasn't going to drive home again. So I spent I don't know, from 6 o'clock Saturday until 2 in the morning. We closed the bar down again with Gil. So we spent quite a lot of time together. It was good getting to know him. So
it's cool that you got to meet him.
it was awesome. We're going to hang out because he'll be at PCA too. So
Yeah, it's real
he's
close.
going to PCA as well. So he's going to be our little tour guide down there because he's from there. So
Mm-hmm.
from Nolans.
Oh no, party foul. Mm-hmm.
Maybe he'll
I tried
tell
to
us
burn
all
my
the spots
fingers.
we should go and we shouldn't go too.
Well, we might get a fun slow mo of me being clumsy instead of Ash. I just dropped my whole cigar, so I got a little crack on the top of it. But you know what? That's my fault. So oh well. Here we are. Drop it straight on the concrete.
Yeah, it was a
That's
good
okay.
weekend. It was a good week. We both had a good weekend. You were at NFG and I was hanging out with Keith Park and Got a Fire.
I was.
Can't
I
beat it.
was. I mean, hanging out with Ronnie's cool enough, but then you get the add a beast like Keith Park in there. That's just phenomenal.
It was really cool because like Ronnie was sitting there on Friday night and he's like, "All right, get up. We're going to dinner." And I'm like, "Oh, whatever." I'm like, I don't know anything, right? He's just dragging me along. So I got to go
Right?
to dinner and I sat right across from Keith Park for the
Heck
whole
yeah.
dinner. It was awesome. So I got a whole bunch of intimate time with this brand owner that I didn't deserve, but it was pretty cool.
And that's one good thing about these events. Sometimes we spend a lot of money, sometimes we don't, but it gives you the a lot of times we do because you're there. Why not? But
Most of the
it
time you do.
most of the time you do. But it like NFG, I wasn't going to spend a lot of money, and Ellen said bet, and she bought a lot more than I did because I was planning on not buying as much this time, so she corrected that for me. But it happens. But it going to these events, it gives you the ability to meet people and talk to people that you may not have the pleasure or ability to elsewhere. So that's a pretty cool one that you actually got to hang out, and that he had the time and willingness to stay after and spend time with, even if it was just the fact that he was doing Ronnie a solid by hanging out with him as the event holder. The fact that he was just willing to also hang out with others like y'all that came with, because not everybody's willing to do that.
Yeah,
So
at the end of the day, what I learn more and more every time I meet these guys is had a similar situation with Juan Martinez from Hoya.
mm-hmm.
I spent 6 hours sitting there just talking to that guy by myself. At the end of the day, these guys are just people.
Yep.
And they're just regular people most of the time, and that's the great thing about this industry is it's not much different than me and you sitting here talking, and that's how you can sit there and have a conversation with those guys, and it's great. And I think they like that. They don't like feeling unapproachable. I think they would rather feel like people can approach them and want to have conversations with them and just talk normal, everyday stuff with them.
It's nice to make money. It's nice to be on billboards. It's nice to have the accolades, but you're still a person. So you don't want to get out of reach where you lose touch with humanity and your potential friends and customers and all that stuff. So it's because then you get into cigar smoking because you like this aspect of it, right? And you don't want to turn it into a business and then lose the aspect of cigar smoking that made you fall in love with it to begin with. So being able to still hang out and smoke and talk with people,
Right.
they
Yeah, I
still
think
want to do that too.
Keith brought that up several times, but that's the whole purpose of his brand is, it's the camaraderie of the guys sitting around the bar, shooting the shit, telling stories, doing, talking about whatever, good stuff, bad stuff,
Right?
what's going good in your life, what's going bad in your life, but it's all like you say, friendship therapy, right? Like
Exactly.
that's the name of the game for him. And that's why he started that company.
And yeah, That was the best thing about NFG. Even though we were all cold and wrapped up, we sat there
They were
and
cold too.
it was cold. But we checked into the event. We went and talked to all the vendors. We got whatever exclusive we want, and then we went into the tit. Eldon and Justin had gotten us a round table, and like 8 of us sat there. Well, David Skelton right behind us. He brought his own chair, and the rest of us, we were sitting right there just shooting the shit for the next couple hours. And then when they started shutting it down, now that skipped over this, NFG, for those who may not know, stands for no F's given, but it is unfiltered, but it is NFG, and that is at Underground Cigar Shop in Fort Worth. It's an annual event, so it's actually one of the well-priced ones, because instead of you paying a big amount for predetermined swag, it was like $85 for, I think, 15 vendor sticks, and then you get access to all these exclusives that are only sold at that event. And then they had the leftovers that are at the shop that most of them are already sold out, so, and maybe sold out by the time this airs because they go quick. But we left NFG when they started shutting down, because they had the vendor sales, and then you have the raffle section, and then what they do separate is then they have a roast. All the vendors and area shop owners that stick around, it is literally like a Comedy Central roast, just for pure.
Oh, when you said roast, I thought you were going to say like some kind of a hog roast,
No.
and I was like, oh, it'd been funnier if it was a comedy roast, but that's
100%.
exactly what it is, huh?
Exactly what it is.
That's amazing.
There's still, they bring a food truck or something of some nature every year, but it's literally a roast. In fact, one of the reps, they had some folding plastic chairs, and he sat down too hard and broke it. So while they're roasting him, he goes around and has all the vendors sign this broken chair, and then they raffle it off for CFW just on a whim. It was the funniest thing, but $250 or whatever went to CFW for this chair, right. But it was hilarious, right? So it's a good end. But we finished all that, and we all had time, but we were starting to get real cold, so we drove 20 minutes over to Cigars International, sat outside by their fire pit, and we had another cigar sitting out there just hanging out and talking before we all had to split ways. So it was a good event. I'm glad I was able to sneak it in and go, because y'all had asked several times, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to make it, but we got it in there.
Yeah, you'd have been sad if you'd have missed it.
I would have. If it falls on a work weekend and I can't pull leave, that's one thing. But knowing I was off work and may still not be able to go, so I'm glad we got it in there.
Right. Yeah, I'm getting down to the tail end of this thing.
Yep, about to. I'll go ahead and pop this band off. I'll pop my secondary band off. I do like how these are super thick bands, and the top band is literally just the brand band. They put all the names on the.
I'm gonna have to go back through and look at all the individual ones on the site and check to see, like you're saying, because that's cool.
It is cool.
Each letter is one of their cigars.
Yeah, if you look up each letter, look up the logo, and if you go to their page, like if you go to apostatecigars.com, hit our cigars up top, it keeps their logo up top, and then you can scroll. They've got pictures and details of all their cigars, so you can literally compare it. It's really cool to see the logos, and of course you can click on each one and actually go into it for more detail, but it's pretty cool to see that it matches.
I don't know if you saw my new hat too. I don't know if I wore this yet.
Let's believe. Oh, you got the new swag hat. I like it.
I don't know if I wore it on the show yet or not. Can't remember. I wore my sweatshirt. I remember that, but
I did. I don't know if you caught the mail blog when I sent it out, but in your honor, we did put out. I'm sorry, you were asking for a friend. So in your friend's honor,
you're gonna tell me flat bills?
Flat bills there.
I'm gonna go buy 2 right now.
Just so you'll know, it is. It's the same brand as the old hat, which the hats we liked. So I was able to carry that over. So,
I liked my old hat too.
but it gave me a whole lot more color options to play with. So it's not
Oh,
just the
right on.
black and green, right? So that's all it was.
Blue. I have a blue one. Mine is like royal blue.
Yeah. So,
My
but
old one.
I have like two, maybe three colors. Now there's like
Mm-hmm.
15 options, but they're all the flat bill. So different
Sweet.
color splits and all kinds of
Oh, you
things.
can get splits.
So you've got, I think like there's one that's like maybe this is this is black and this is blue or pink and all. So it's a nice mix. So you got
That's
plenty
awesome.
of choices. And then there is a big duffel bag on there too, and uh, there's all kinds of stuff for adding. But that's the two recent ads. But I did get your flat bill on there, so
Thank you, sir.
you're
I'll
welcome.
go take advantage of that tonight.
Go tell your friend it's there.
Yeah. Well, he knows already.
And yeah, the links have been showing up in the bottom, but we don't push hard, but we do have some merch, and it completely goes back to paying for the software to do this podcast. That's where all of that goes. So go down to hollowcigar.com. You hit the shop, wherever I'm pointing at. It'll be the shop link over here. It'll take you to our swag store. So we'll be popping stuff in there periodically as things pop up and we carry things over. But yeah. But I'm a fan of this cigar. I haven't had a bad thing to say about it. Even with me I cracked the end as I dropped it head first on the concrete. That's my fault. Luckily, I got through most of the cigar, and it's still drawing well. A lot of times you get a crack up here and it doesn't. It's still holding up.
Leaking out the sides. I've had that happen. My own fault, usually.
And I can tell, but it's still burning even with that. Still no bitterness, and we're getting, we are in the last third, and it's not bitter. It's flavor stay consistent. I've got no qualms about it. It's just for a candela and a guy that doesn't really like candela, I really like this candela.
Agreed.
So it's just a good smooth cigar. So if one, you want to try a new brand, head over to Apostate. I know several places have them, but we got ours from BL Luxuries. I know the last time I checked, they had the first 6 blends. Working on getting the other 2. I just don't think they had them yet because they just released late last year. So they're starting to scatter on retailers. But I know for a fact you can get the first 6 from BL Lux. Give them all a shot, try it out. But definitely, if you're like candelas or you're like me, you're on the fence about candelas, give this one a shot. You might be surprised like I have been. But we're going to close out the show for today. I know most of this we talked about, Apostate, and then we talked about some storage concerns, which is always a good conversation because those are tips and tricks that you may not know about, or you may find something that we said and want to add to it and drop a comment, and we'll bring it up next time. We do like the kickback. So y'all know how to find us. If you're not on Facebook, you got our show email in the notes. You're more than welcome to comment down below on the show itself, whether you're watching this in podcast format or you're watching it on YouTube. You can comment on both, and we'll join in some friendship therapy conversation with you just as well. But we'll wrap this up and go back to being adults like we always complain about. I know it's the worst part. I say it all the time, and I know it's a boring comment because I say it all the time, but it's just the sad truth. So we're realists around here. But another good show. Appreciate the conversation, Chad, as always. And y'all out there in Hollow Down World, y'all know the drill. Till next time, stay safe and hollow down.
Take care.